thank you guys for the opportunity to be with you this morning and to share about New Hope. Some of you know me, some of you know me pretty well, and you know I talk about New Hope all the time. And it's because this is actually a passion. This isn't something that I set out to do professionally. I went to college and I was a psychology major with a recreation minor. And at the time that this opportunity came before me, I was a stay-at-home mom of 3 children. And I was happy with that, and I was really blessed to be able to do that. And what happened is in 2001, after the birth of our 3rd child, Faith, and we have 4 now, I read an article about partial birth abortion. And to be honest, I was just shocked that that was happening in the United States of America, and that babies that were viable and full term were losing their lives. And Faith was a newborn. And I remembered looking at her and just thinking that babies as healthy and as viable and as big as she were could possibly lose their lives that day. And I actually lay down and cried for about 3 hours. My husband had no idea what was wrong with me when he got home because my eyes were all puffy and everything. And but I remember asking God, why did you show me this? Because I'm sure some of you have experienced that in your life where something is so much bigger than you. And it is so much bigger than anything that there's no way that you personally could have an impact. It is just too big. How could you make a difference? And that's how I felt. It was like, this is so big, how could one person make a difference? Because you see, I knew nothing about the pregnancy help movement. I knew nothing about the grassroots pro-life movement. I was in church, I was very involved in church, but that really wasn't something that was ever spoken about at my church. And I did not know that the pro-life movement is the largest grassroots movement in the entire world. And there's a huge network that is really making a difference. And so as I cried out and I said, how can I get involved? How can I make a difference? This came before me. I had a friend that started volunteering at our local pregnancy help center. I found out about it. I became a volunteer. I trained to be a peer counselor and started volunteering. I fell in love with the work that we did there. I fell in love with our clients. What I loved about it the most is that we had the opportunity to offer hope and support and the gospel to those that came through our doors, and we had the opportunity to literally change the direction of their lives. We had people coming in and they were terrified, they didn't know what was going on, they didn't know where to turn, and they were absolutely hopeless, and you have that opportunity to completely turn them in another direction, and they would come in downcast, downtrodden, and they would walk out the door with hope and a smile on their face. Later that year I was offered a paid position, and that was in 2003. And so we are here in 2014. It became a profession. I went back and finished college, got my master's degree in biblical counseling, had no idea that this was going to set a course for my life or for my family. I've ministered in Alabama, I was in Houston, Texas, and now thankfully back in the Southeast in Cleveland, Tennessee. If you're from Texas, I do not mean to step on your toes, but it is not the Southeast. Any place you cannot get sweet tea, and when you order grits, they bring it out as an appetizer in the bowl before your eggs, is not the Southeast. We had to explain how to serve food out there to our servers, and they don't understand SEC football. They kept trying to explain, Big 12 and Big 10 and all this stuff to me, and I'm like, no, you just don't get it. And so we were really excited to get back home. And honestly, I can say I am doing what I want to do. And I will also tell you this, I can't do what I do without an amazing husband and an amazing family. And I say that just as we were talking about, men and women before, and do you want to talk to the man in charge or the one that knows what's going on? I thank the Lord that I have a godly man in charge in my home that understands that this is a calling that is a calling for our entire family. So it's an amazing thing. In 1985, 3 prominent Cleveland ladies came together and met because they wanted to see a safe place for women and men to be able to come in the midst of a crisis pregnancy and also in the pain of past abortion. And out of that was birthed the New Hope Pregnancy Care Center. That was over 28 years ago. And since then, we have impacted our community through over 19,000 client visits. Almost 300 people have prayed to receive Christ as their Lord and Savior. And in just the last 9 years, more than 500 New Hope babies have been born. New Hope is making a huge impact on this community. New Hope is the best place in Bradley County to find help, hope, and accurate information for those facing an unplanned pregnancy. We provide pregnancy testing, options education. We talk about carrying and placing through adoption. We talk about caring and parenting, whether that is single or married. And we do education on abortion because we do believe that without knowledge, people perish. And I think in the case of abortion, that is one of the best examples of people perishing because they are not knowledgeable. They don't know what's going on. So we do education, but we are 100% pro-life. So therefore, we do not advocate for abortion, we do not refer for abortion, but we do educate because we really do believe that it's important, and when people are informed, they make better decisions. We offer peer counseling and mentoring. We have crisis pregnancy coaches, and as a matter of fact, in the last couple of years, we've really stepped this up. We offer certified crisis pregnancy coaching to our counselors that come in, our volunteers. It is certified through the American Association of Christian Counselors and Light University. It's a 100, 200 level college course. By the time they step into that counseling room, they have not only gone through college courses, but they have also gone through our in-house training, and they are very well equipped and they are ready to meet the need of that client. Not to mention they are backed by staff that has collectively years and years and years of experience, and they are able to go in there and sit down and to be able to help that person figure out what's really going on in their life and what is the heart of their problem. We offer the HOPE group, which is abortion recovery, because many who make the choice to terminate a pregnancy later regret it, and we recognize that they are hurting and they are grieving. And we want to be able to step up alongside them and help them through that and help them to be able to recover and be fully restored. We offer parenting education and material assistance through the Earn While You Learn program. This is one of my favorite parts of what we do because, see, we don't believe in giving handouts, we believe in hand-ups. We want to change their lives. We want to change the direction of their lives. We don't want to just give them things and leave them where they're at. We want to see their parenting skills to become better. We want to see them to learn how to manage their finances. Our upcoming parenting class, which is tonight, is CPR certification. We actually want to see them not only be able to parent their children better, but also increase their job skills. There are so many things that these mothers are able to be able to go and get jobs if they're CPR certified and they've gone through parenting courses in local daycares and things such as that. We want to be able to see them to not only be able to provide for their children better, but to be able to provide care for them. And through this Earn While You Learn program, as they do homework, as they talk with us, as they do videos, as they learn, they actually are able to get baby bucks, and then they exchange them for items out of our Hope Chest. And so as they are getting educated and they're learning, they're also getting things like cribs, car seats, pack and plays, diapers, clothing, wet wipes, pretty much anything that you can imagine that you would need to set up a nursery or you would need through that child's first year of life, they can get it at New Hope. One of the #1 reasons that people state that they choose to terminate a pregnancy is financial stress. And those of you that have children, you know, it can be financially stressful. My first 3 were born within a 4-year period. I had 2 in diapers at one time, and I can actually remember going to the grocery store and trying to figure out how I was going to buy 4 packs of diapers and how I was going to feed the rest of us for a week until my husband's next paycheck. You know, lots of ramen noodle nights. My husband now will not touch ramen noodles. Absolutely not. It's not going to happen. And I can even remember when he finally told me, you know, just cut some hot dogs up and put it in there. You got to have some kind of meat or something. And the thought of ramen noodles and hot dogs together to me was absolutely disgusting. But he had reached his limit. We have, along with the Earn While You Learn program and our parenting classes that we offer, we are now offering some new programs. This last year we began the Fatherhood Fraternity. And this is one of the things that the Lord laid on my heart in 2006. And I'm a woman. I cannot teach a man how to be a dad because I have never been a dad. I can't teach a man how to be a man because I've never been a man. We strongly believe in the Titus II theory that we are there to train women up to be godly women. And I can teach someone how to be a parent to a point. And so I began praying that the Lord would raise up godly men in our community to step up alongside these young men. And the Lord has done that. And now we actually have Moms Club and Fatherhood Fraternity. And we have men in our community that are stepping up alongside these men, teaching them how to be dads. Because so many of our dads that are coming through, they want to be great dads, but they didn't have a good example, or they didn't have an example at all for a father. And I can't tell you how many I've sat and counseled, and their wife or their girlfriend's pregnant, and they're excited that she's pregnant, but they are scared to death. And I've had young men look at me and go, I really want to be a good dad, but I am so afraid I'm going to mess up and be just like my father. And nothing will break your heart like that will. When you're looking at someone and they want to just do the best they can and they want to bless their child, but he's sitting there telling me, I don't know if I can do it because I don't know how. And that is a need that needs to be met. And so we are meeting that through the fatherhood fraternity. And we also recognized another need because we often see this within our center, because 1 out of 3 pregnancies naturally terminate and miscarry in the first trimester. So a lot of our pregnancy test clients are going to miscarry and they're going to grieve. And some of you have experienced this. You've experienced it in your own household or a family member or in your church. And couples and families, and they're grieving and they're hurting. And sometimes we just don't know what to say. We don't know how to help them. And so we began to pray about this. And now we actually, on Tuesday, we had our second heart group meeting. And our heart group meeting is a miscarriage support and recovery group that we're beginning to branch out and offer. And as a matter of fact, we met with the Women's Choices Center in Chattanooga, because Women's is another center like ours in Chattanooga. They don't have anything like it. And when this came before me, the staff member that brought it to my attention, I said, you know what? I've never seen a curriculum for anything like this. I don't know that anyone's doing anything quite like this. We could be setting a standard. We actually might be writing a program within the next couple of years and be teaching workshops on how to implement this. This could change lives and it could set people free. And so we're really excited that the Lord has just given us opportunity, in some cases, to be on the cutting edge of ministry, even within our field. But I want to share a story with you that sort of gives me the driving passion for what I do and why I do it. This is the 3rd center I've been with, and I'll just be honest, I've been doing this since 2003. And I was one of those people that grew up in the same neighborhood, and I went to the same church, and I was kin to like 3/4 of the people in the church. And so Cleveland feels very much at home. I love Cleveland. It's actually a lot bigger than my hometown, but it didn't take me too long to start running into people at Walmart that I'd met at church or that I had met through the center. And I love it because it feels very much like home. And my oldest daughter just graduated from Cleveland High School this last Friday, and my family came up here, and even my family commented on the fact that, wow, this is a lot like home. And I grew up in the mountains of northeastern Alabama, and so even the terrain was familiar. And but you know, my desire has never been to have to minister in different places. I would have loved to have just stayed in one place. And looking back now, I understand, though, why God has given me opportunities and He has taken me to different places, and why He gave me a story that has set a precedent in my life to give me a passion to do what I do. The center that I was with in Alabama was exactly like New Hope when I began there. We were a non-medical center. And we did we offered the same kind of things. Obviously, at that time, we weren't doing Earn While You Learn because this was many years ago. We didn't have fatherhood fraternity or the heart group or anything like that. But we were doing the pregnancy testing, the options counseling, and so forth. But in 2003, we converted to a medical clinic. And that meant we were able to have a nurse manager on staff. We were able to do a nurse-tested pregnancy test. She could give the diagnosis of pregnancy, and we could offer ultrasounds in office. And that's a pretty big deal because you can't get free ultrasounds anywhere. And I remember a client, and her name is Tiffany, and she was actually the very first ultrasound client we ever had. And Tiffany ended up being my client. And Tiffany was pretty. She was 20 years old. She had a 15-month-old son, and she came in, and I walked out to the lobby, and I called her back, and she came through the door, and she wouldn't really look at me. She was looking down at the ground, and I said, "Hi, my name's Tracy. How are you doing?" And she started crying before we ever got into the counseling room. And as I began talking to Tiffany, I found out that she already knew she was pregnant. She wasn't really there for a pregnancy test. She had already set an appointment with a women's center in Birmingham to have an abortion. And she had a good friend that said, "Why don't you slow down and go talk to somebody before you make a decision that you can't ever change? Just talk to somebody, slow down." And so she listened to the wise counsel of her friend. And she's in there, and we counseled for about 2.5 hours. It's the longest counseling session I've ever had in, 11 years. The whole time she's crying. We went through pictures of fetal development. We watched the videos and everything else. We determined how far along she was in the pregnancy. I was able to show her the fetal development of her child at that point. And she's looking at the pictures, and I said, well, when to you, is it a baby? And she said, well, when it has, fingers and toes. And we went to the fetal development. I showed her at that point, yes, it's got fingers and toes. And I found out that the reason she was considering having an abortion is because they were so financially strapped. They were going at times without electricity and without water to be able to buy food and diapers for their 15-month-old. And they were living in a trailer down in Clanton, Alabama, and any of you that know that, it's hot down there. It's down below Birmingham, and you're headed down toward the coast, and we have summers down there that will range anywhere between 95 and 105 degrees with about 85% humidity, and it is absolutely miserable. And in a trailer, you can just go ahead and figure on 115 degrees. It is absolutely horrible. It was horrible. And she just could not see any way that they could make it. So I got to the end of the counseling session, and I just asked her, I said, okay, as we've talked about everything, we've looked at the fetal development, I've talked about how we could help and the financial and the material things that we could help with. I said, what are you thinking now? And she looked at me and she said, I have to hurry up and have an abortion before it's really a baby. And it hit me that all the counseling and all the tools that we had done nothing. It had not pierced her heart. And I looked at her and I said, well, 1 out of 3 pregnancies naturally terminate in the first trimester, and you're still in the first trimester. It's a possibility that you could miscarry naturally. We can determine viability today. I have a nurse manager here that can do an ultrasound. Is that something that you would be willing to do? And she said yes. And so I went back to Marge and I said, we've got our first ultrasound, and Marge immediately began shaking. What was amazing about Marge is Marge didn't come to Christ until she had already had 3 abortions. Marge knew the pain of abortion. Marge was an amazing woman of God. And Marge was excited and she was scared to death. And so we had to warm up the ultrasound machine, which it was one of those old ones, and it took about 15 minutes, so I had to occupy Tiffany and her baby for about 15 minutes until we could get back there. And Tiffany, because she didn't know Marge, and she spent 2.5 hours with me, she probably felt like I was her sister by then, asked me if I would go back with her. And so I had this great opportunity to be in the room with her when they did the ultrasound. And so Tiffany is laying on the table, and I can remember she had been crying the whole time that we were there. And as she's laying on the exam table, Marge has the ultrasound screen turned toward her so that she can take her measurements and everything. And she can do that without Tiffany asking questions, which is common procedure. And Tiffany is laying on the exam table, and she's laying on her back and she's crying, and I'm literally watching tears fill up her ears. As she's crying, the tears are running and filling up her ears as I'm standing there holding her hand. Now, I can see what's on the screen, and I, at this point, had had 3 babies, so I knew exactly what I was looking at. I already saw the heartbeat. I didn't know how to run the machine, but I could tell you everything we were looking at. I knew what the heartbeat was, and I was just praying the whole time, and I can tell you Marge was praying the whole time, and our entire center was praying the whole time, because by the time we went out, they were having a prayer meeting in the hallway. And so finally Marge got her measurements, and she turned the screen toward Tiffany, and she said, okay, well, let me show you what we're looking at. And she started showing, okay, this is the femur of the baby, and this right here, you see this is a spine. You see that little blipping blipping spot right there? That's the heartbeat. It's about 140 beats a minute. And right about that time, that baby reached up and touched the side of its head. And when it did, it looked like the baby was waving at us. And this was not the professional thing to do, but Marge really didn't care. I don't think, because she was so desperate. Marge said, look, your baby's waving at you. But Tiffany left that day with her son on her hip and pictures of her baby in her hand, and she said, talking to her son going out the hallway, look at our new baby, look at our new baby. And about 8-9 months later, she came back into the center, asked to see me. I walked out to the lobby, and she's sitting there with her son and her little baby girl, and she said, I had to bring her back in and let you see her, because if you had not been there that day to share your love and support, she would not be here now. Ultrasound makes a difference. In March of 2013, our board of directors voted for New Hope to convert to a medical clinic, because we believe that is going to save lives. Not only is it going to save lives, but it's going to draw more people to New Hope Pregnancy Care Center, because we're going to be offering things that no one else here in our community can offer. And so it's going to draw more and more people to us. It's going to give us more opportunity to strengthen parents, to strengthen families, to make stronger dads, to make better moms. And it's going to give us the opportunity to share the gospel, because I make no bones about it, we are a Christian organization. We exist because we serve Jesus Christ. And we have those that come through, and they are not going to accept the gospel, and that's okay. We're going to strengthen them. They're going to be better parents, and their needs are going to be met, and the needs of their children are going to be met. But we also are going to have those that are going to come through, and they're going to hear about the love of Christ. And even for those that don't accept that come through when they are at our center, nevertheless, seeds are going to be planted. Let's see. I don't want to keep you all forever. I do want to just share with you how we do what we do. We don't guilt people into not choosing abortion. And that is really big for me because some centers have done that in the past, and I have never been with a center that does that. But initially, when pregnancy help centers came on the scene, I think they were so desperate to get people to choose life that they would do whatever needed to be done to get that person to choose life. And I don't believe that manipulation and coercion is a tactic that represents the heart of Christ, because Jesus never did that. So we don't manipulate, we don't coerce. Instead, we believe in empowering and equipping people to be able to make the choice of life, to be able to make good choices for themselves. We want to step up alongside our clients as they have their babies, meeting their spiritual and their emotional needs and their material needs. Most of all, we want to help them choose life. We want them to choose life for their babies, but we also hope that they choose life for themselves in Jesus Christ. At the center, everything we do is centered around the gospel and the love and the hope of Jesus. And I just want to close with telling you what has been happening at New Hope, because it has been absolutely phenomenal. In 2013, we had 1,345 client visits. It was an 18.5% increase compared to 2012. But in the last 2 calendar years, we've had a 42.5% increase in client visits. 42.5%. It has been phenomenal, and we are busy, and we can use your prayers. 87% of our pregnant clients confirmed that they decided to choose life for their unborn children. 87%. That is phenomenal. Not all of our clients allow us to follow up with them, but of those who did, we have confirmed 42 babies that were born in 2013 that are New Hope babies. Most importantly, through pregnancy coaching and mentoring, 4 people made the decision to follow Christ in 2013. And this is one of my favorite statistics. Our satellite center, New Hope East, which is on Blythe Avenue near the old Whirlpool plant, had been sitting there for 7 years, and we really had not seen any growth. We weren't seeing new clients. Our numbers weren't growing. They actually were beginning to decline a bit. And we had been talking on the board, do we keep it open? Do we close it? You know, is it going to prosper? And we decided, you know what, we're going to give it one more year. And so we changed some things. We made some strategic decisions last year, beginning in January, and we had a 252% client visit increase in 2013. And this year, both centers are already outpacing 2013 numbers. So I want to thank you for giving me time this morning. I never tire of telling people about the great things that are happening at New Hope, and I hope that you haven't grown tired of hearing me tell about them this morning. New Hope is growing, and we're adding programs, and we're saving lives. At present, our ministry is great, but we are not done yet. It is only going to get better. Thank you so much.
Any questions for Tracy? Tracy, come back for a second, please.
Tracy, I have a question.
Yes.
What is being done in our local schools to educate, to avoid
Abstinence education?
Yes.
In 2010, we lost our Title V funding, which is what supported the One Life, One Choice program that we had, which was our in-school healthy lifestyle and abstinence education. At that point, we partnered with On Point out of Chattanooga, which has the same program, the same curriculum. So On Point now covers Bradley County. So our schools are still being covered, and what we did is we partnered with them financially and continued to support them through the change until they could sustain covering the county. And so this last year, they actually had a banquet this past spring to begin fundraising here. What our promise to them is during the transition that financially we would help them make that transition, and then we would continue to support and promote what they were doing in the community. And so I have 4 children in the schools, 2 that are in ages that have received the education, and so I know that it's going on, and my kids have come back telling me how great it was. So, yes, ma'am.
I don't have a question for you. I have a little bit of a testimonial. It's not my personal one, but there's a success story of New Hope right here in your community that you probably know her face. Evie West,
Yes.
who is with Cleveland Police Department and is their information officer,
Mhm.
is a product of New Hope.
Mhm.
And she wrote a book called Revolving Choices.
Yes.
If you haven't read it, I suggest you do so.
And we have copies at our office. Evie is wonderful. When she sells a copy of her book, she asks people if they will donate enough money to be able to donate a copy to our office so that we can offer it to clients as they come in. We actually give those out to many of our clients that are in situations like Evie was. And also, I've given them out to many parents and grandparents who have children that are facing the situations and they're overwhelmed with how to handle it. But Evie is a phenomenal person. And Evie now has actually continued on, and at the last CareNet conference was a keynote speaker, and that is one of the organizations that we have been affiliated with, where we go do our continuing education. She has spoken at Heartbeat workshops and CareNet conferences, and so now she is actually on the National Pro-Life Speaker Circuit. So it's been pretty amazing.
Do you have any program alternative to abortion to have adoption?
Yes. Yes, what we do is we have a list. We ourselves do not facilitate adoption because it could look like a conflict of interest. We want those that come to us to know that we do not in any way want to influence them to make any particular decision. But what we do is we have organizations in our community, and we have a referral list of, we actually have 5 different adoption agencies that are vetted, that we know are nonprofits. They're not in it for the money. And they also have no strings attached. We want our clients to know that if they go into it, they go all the way up until delivery and then change their mind, that they don't have to pay anything back. Because we are pro-life, and our hope is that they can make the best choice for themselves and for their child. And if that means at the last minute they find a way financially to be able to provide for them, and they decide that they can parent, that they can make that choice. And so we refer to those in our community, and we also will sometimes have them come in. We will meet with them. We will meet with the adoption agency and advocate on their behalf. But yes, we are. We believe that the option of adoption is one of the very best for our clients. Sadly, most of our clients are not going to consider that option because it is a very difficult and self-sacrificing option, and there's a lot of grief even with open adoption, and they can choose to place and still have contact with their child with the right couple. They can choose to place and still know what's going on. There is closed, semi-open, and open adoptions, and all of the agencies we work with offer all 3.
Okay. When you do that, when somebody decides to do that, do you give counseling to the, new parents, so that they don't feel guilty and, they feel good about it? Because do you give counseling for those parents?
The agencies that we work with actually provide counseling during the process, and they provide lifetime counseling after. So if they ever start experiencing depression or regret or grief, they are always able to go back and never have to pay for it.
Tracy, thank you for being
Thank
with us
you.
today. Your passion for what you're doing is very evident. And you're helping a lot of people at some very difficult times. Y'all are giving a lot of yourselves in some very difficult times. So I celebrate the hard, good, great work you're doing and your growth. So thank you for being with us today and talking with us today. You're doing some good work.
Thank you.
I have
It's
a
my
coin.
pleasure.
I have a coin for you from our club.
Okay.
On one side it says Bradley Sunrise Rotary. On the other side it says service above self. And you and your organization embody service above self. So thank you for
Thank
being with
you.
us today. I had heard good things about y'all, so thank you for being with us
Thank
and sharing
you.
with us today. Would you please stand with me and let us quote together the 4-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Have a great day. Good to be with you this morning. Have a great rest of the week.
We need to get your picture.